Hello there, welcome to another episode at the Whalestead. In today's video I'm just going to be doing some odd chores around the farm. I have this list of all sorts of different things here that I need to get done before spring comes or by the end of spring. A lot of it includes building the infrastructure around the farm, finishing the steps, which I'll probably do in the next episode, and of course planting crops and planting the trees that I've been mentioning a lot in the last videos in this area right next to the farm here that needs reforesting probably more than most other areas around the woodland. And we'll be doing that with the very generous donations that we've received on our fundraiser. If you haven't seen that already or you don't know what I'm on about, go check the link out in the description below. We've got a GoFundMe going on at the moment to help fund as many trees as we possibly can. Of course, we are going to be using as much of our own funds as is feasible, but if you guys want to support our work here in restoring this ancient woodland, then please consider going to that link in the description below and donating whatever you can. It doesn't have to be much at all, but every penny that we raise is, it goes towards more and more trees, and the more trees we can get, we can not only reforest this area but other areas around the woodland as well. In the last couple episodes I've been working on this dead hedge out here, and of course you just saw I've just installed that wildlife camera all the way up there in Badger Valley, so I'm really excited to see what that's going to capture. I hope it stays on the tree because I didn't do the strap very well, but I'll pick that up next time I'm here, and then I'll just keep putting it down here every time I'm here so that we can not only capture some cool footage but also monitor the wildlife that's moving through this woodland. So anyway, I've got that long list to work on, and I've got some bits to crack on with today, so let me stop talking and I'll get to work on all of that. Now that's what you call waterlogged. It's 3 times heavier than it would usually be if it wasn't so wet. Now I mentioned in the last video that our original plan was to have sort of square defined beds. I've since sort of shifted away from that idea, so I mean we'll try it. If it doesn't work we'll switch back to another method, and of course I literally know nothing about gardening and especially permaculture. I'm familiar with the idea of it, the concept of it, but in practice I have no clue, especially in a woodland environment where there's already so many native plants in the ground already. How do we find that balance between growing what we want to grow while there's also grass and bracken and reeds. It's a long learning process, we'll get there, but I think the first step towards it is going to be removing these square beds, and then I will of course update you guys in a later video when we've sort of got a better idea of how we're going to mark out the plots for our no-dig growing area. The weather today cannot make its mind up. It's been lovely and sunny this morning. Now it's chucking it down again. I'm going to go in there for a bit. I don't like getting wet. So another thing I don't know if you guys will be able to help me with, but this is what's happened to our crops down here. And we had Cavolo Nero here, we had some potatoes, sweet peppers, loads of tomatoes that were just out of control, so I had to trim them back a few times. And then within the course of about 2 weeks, they went from still being alive and green to completely rotting away like this. And I thought that in a greenhouse like this they wouldn't really die back as much as they have. But I think for today I'm probably just going to rip them out because they smell as well. When you walk in the greenhouse, it just smells very mouldy. Ah, there we go. I think they're probably past their season now, aren't they? But there are sweet potatoes in here. We have these bamboo stakes in there as well that were, I'd rather take these out. That one's dead. There is one that is still alive down here, but it's obviously not growing any veg at the moment. This tomato stem is very rotten. Look at this. The mould on this tomato. Luckily, the soil still smells very fertile. I would give some to you to smell, but you're just a camera, so. We're going to chuck this in our current compost bin, and all this dead produce in the compost bin now that it's stopped raining. So as I said, this is just a temporary compost bin. It works quite well, but it's in the wrong place because it's right next to the greenhouse, and I think that doesn't help with all the rot that's getting in there. And also in the summer, it absolutely stank in there, it really did. We'll probably save the crate and use it for something else, maybe like a little log store for my camp up there or something. Another feature of permaculture gardens that I'm going to be sort of researching and learning about a little bit in the coming weeks and months to start integrating perhaps before summer or by next autumn is digging swales. And essentially a swale is like a trench or a ditch. It's not too deep, it's only 6 to 8 inches I believe, and it's designed to follow the contours of the land and therefore trap running rainwater so that it has a chance to absorb into the land rather than just running off, which is definitely something that we experience a lot here, where this farm is at the bottom of that steep slope up there, and then the hill continues back down there too. It is a case of trying to retain the moisture that does enter the farm, and I think swales are the way to go with that. It's a very common feature in permaculture farms. I think up on this hill would be best because then it's also going to benefit when we start planting the trees up here too, because there's going to be moisture retained in that soil. Another benefit to it is that it prevents so much soil erosion too, which is a problem especially at the front of the greenhouse on our little path there. The water has carved this little river almost through the soil. I think swales are the way to go with that, and it's only going to benefit the ecosystem, the farm and the tree planting as well. But that will be in a future video that I'll get around to that. I've just got to learn a lot more about it first. But again, if you guys know any more about that, please let me know, or direct me to any resources that you've learned from. All the help is greatly appreciated. Now I know these might look like plastic bags, and you've probably seen them in previous videos in our compost bin. They are actually the co-op bags, and they are supposedly biodegradable and home compostable. So it has definitely broken down. It's not made of plastic, and you can see it is breaking down quite easily. Still, I'm probably going to avoid using these too much in the future because although they say they're compostable, I can't guarantee, you know, if they've been chemically treated or, you know, if there are any harmful chemicals in there, and probably not the most sustainable composting method. Now, this is a concrete slab that I found over amongst the cherry laurel, and I put it in front of the compost bin to make it a bit easier to stand on. But because I'm sort of slowly getting rid of this compost bin, then I'm going to use it in the greenhouse. Because only about half the floor in the greenhouse is actually complete, so we're going to use this on the floor in there, which will hopefully stop some of the mould and the weeds coming through from the soil in there. Oh, it cracked! Oh, it made it worse. It really, really stinks of mould in the greenhouse. Like, really bad. And other smells I can't identify. There you go. Better. And then this is the compost bin that we had going before. My neighbour, or you know, someone nearby is clearly hunting or something. Anyway, loads of eggshells. Eggshells are meant to be compostable apparently, but they haven't really disappeared much. And again, there's more of those supposedly compostable carrier bags from the co-op. But again, I'm going to avoid using them too much in the future, because I don't know, you know, they say they're compostable, but can we rule out that there's any plastic in there? Can we rule out harsh chemicals used to treat them or to make them? And you know, they've got writing on them and they're green. I doubt they're naturally green. Is that some sort of harmful ink? You know, I know it probably sounds petty. Some people just chuck whatever in the compost, but it's, you know, something to be mindful of. So this is just, I don't really know what to do with this. I don't know whether to pour it out onto somewhere or just go and like pour it out over there and just dump it so that it can decompose completely. But otherwise, the next job that I've got to do is dismantle this. This is that water capturing system that I spoke about in previous videos, and it's, you know, it's only recently started gathering water because of the heavy rains we've been having. But the rest of it has collapsed in the wind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dismantle this. Again, there's some concrete slabs there I can use in the greenhouse. And then, as I mentioned, we're probably going to start digging some swales in here. So as I was talking about following the contours of the land, it will sort of come down here and then run along here, and then maybe go down there so it drains off out there. We can have a few in here, and as I said, that will benefit the trees that we'll be planting in this area, but it should also, you know, help this area of the woodland retain some moisture as well, and prevent some of this soil erosion that has been happening. It's not so bad today, despite the heavy rains we've been having, but you can see what I mean here, where it's gone sort of a greyish colour, and that's clay exposed. But we really want to be keeping as much of this organic soil on top as possible, but instead you can see the ripples in here of where water has trickled down, and we have seen it before where this whole area here, I mean, you can see it here as well, it has this ripple look to it where a lot of the soil gets washed away. So in the spirit of retaining as much of the woodland soil as possible, while also following the principles of permaculture, then swales are something we are going to be looking at. But as I said, it's something that needs to be done properly. Right, as for what else I've got to do, I will empty that bin out in a bit, but there's this mini greenhouse thing. It's just a a square greenhouse essentially, either for a small garden, an allotment, or in our case we were going to put it over some of the square beds to help certain plants grow. However, it's broken. The poles inside won't stand up properly, and they also won't fold away properly. But this has been sat here for a long time. You've probably seen it in a lot of the videos, just sat there in the background, and I'm sure you guys have probably wondered why the hell we've just got a big piece of plastic dumped on the ground. The truth is, I cannot figure out how to fold it up properly. We have a bag for it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get that bag now and attempt that. And the other thing as well is this was a bed that actually had some successful crops in there, hence the chicken wire, because I didn't want our forest friends eating them. This is of course another thing that I want to clear up today, but the time is getting on. It's 3:20, so I've got about an hour and a half until the sun sets, so I better go on with it. I regret to report that for the meantime that greenhouse thingy is going to stay there, because I cannot for the life of me figure out how to fold that thing up. But what I can do is start dismantling that water capturing system, as I said, and we will use the materials for something else one day, but for the meantime we're just going to get rid of it because it's not really functioning as we wanted it to, and it has now collapsed, so it's really not functioning at all. Alright, so I've got pretty much most of the chores that I wanted to get done today finished. That thing, again, has defeated me. The water butt system's dismantled. What I'm going to do in a minute is go cut some of that sycamore down for more of the dead hedge posts, not like the cherry laurel I was using, which is a little bit thicker, but these hazel ones here were much easier to work with. But I'd rather cut down some of those dead stems of sycamore over there. And I also want to share with you guys a mystery that has been rattling around in my head for the last few weeks. So you can see there's this fallen Douglas fir stump here that was uprooted. You can see down here the root ball and the soil that came up with it, and down there is quite a large hole in the ground where, you know, it pulled most of the earth up with it. Quite a large diameter, not too different from this humongous one here, which we measured with a drone to be about 135 feet tall, give or take. So the diameter of that is very similar to the diameter of this, which would suggest that the height of this wasn't much different from this behemoth here. However, the mystery is if you follow the path of where it fell, so you can see it fell here, and then I'm assuming my grandfather cut there one day. But if you follow the line of where it fell, you get to the beautiful ancient oak that's sitting on the hill there. But that doesn't quite line up, because there's this humongous tree that's fallen here, and that is well within range of the height that this tree would have been, and yet there seems to be no damage to the branches of that tree, and the size of those branches would suggest that they are very old, probably as old as this Douglas fir, if not definitely older than when it fell. Look at this, those branches all intact, and they go very deep into the woodland here, and right behind me, that Douglas fir. Now logically you would think that that would have come crashing down and taken out these branches here, but there seems to be absolutely no damage on those branches, nor any missing branches or any noticeable damage on this Douglas fir. The only thing that I can find is this tree stump that I'm standing on, which is much older than that looks to be. So, but it is dead straight in line with that tree. So I don't know, perhaps there was a tree here that caught that tree. But still, you would think that this tree here, this beautiful oak, would show some sort of, you know, sign of damage, but it seems to have escaped unscathed. How on earth this humongous Douglas fir did not take out these branches here, I have no idea. So if anyone has any ideas, comment below. The only thing I said I can think of is that there is a very small tree stump down there. But as I said, it's very rotten, and I would assume is probably older than when this fell. So that's the mystery I've been thinking of. Whew. Okay, that's all my tasks done for today. It's getting pretty dark now, so I'm going to head home, have a shower, make some dinner, and then I will probably be back in a few days to continue with the dead hedge again. I'm just going to let these dead sycamore stems dry out for a bit, and then the next video will probably be finishing the steps and doing something else as well. So thank you guys for watching this episode of the Wellstead, and I will see you all in the next episode.